Welcome to Daily Review, your daily dose of literary exploration. We dive into books that spark curiosity and ignite growth. Today, we're unpacking a book that didn't just sell millions of copies, it literally started a movement. We're diving into Timothy Ferriss's The 4-Hour Workweek to break down its pretty radical blueprint for, well, redesigning your entire life.
Ferriss kicks things off with this, really provocative idea to get us thinking. He's basically challenging us to question the path that pretty much everyone else is on. You know the one, right? The one that tells you to work your life away for a retirement that, well, who knows if it'll even be there?
All right, so let's just dive right in and start by tackling what might be the biggest myth out there. The idea that becoming a millionaire is the ultimate goal.
And this really is the core question that Ferriss wants us to ask ourselves. The whole traditional path, what he calls the deferred life plan, it asks us to sacrifice our best years, our youth, our energy, all for some payoff decades from now. But you gotta ask, is that pot of gold really worth the wait?
So Ferriss lays out these two completely opposite ways of thinking. On one hand, you've got the deferrers. These are the folks working for years and years hoping for that big, far-off payday, like retirement. But then you have the new rich. And for them, it's all about immediate cash flow to create freedom right now in the present. That giant payday down the road, that's just a nice to have, not the main goal.
And here's the real kicker, the crucial point. People don't actually want $1 million sitting in a bank account. What they really want are the things they think that money buys. We're talking about exotic travel, more time with family, the absolute freedom to chase their passions. See? The real goal is the lifestyle, not the number on your bank statement.
Okay, so if the old way is totally broken, what's the alternative? Let's get to know this new breed that Ferriss calls the new rich.
Now this is an absolute game changer of a concept. The new rich, they don't measure wealth in those absolute terms we're used to, like your annual salary. Nope, they measure it in relative terms. It all comes down to how much freedom your income actually buys you.
This whole idea becomes crystal clear when you look at an example. So imagine Jane. She makes $100,000 a year, but she's working a grueling 80 hours a week. That breaks down to about $25 an hour. Now look at John. He only makes $50K a year, half of what Jane makes, but he only works 10 hours a week. His time is worth $100 an hour. So in the world of the new rich, who's richer? It's John. He's 4 times richer because his wealth is measured in freedom.
And just how far can you take this? Seriously, this is not a typo. Ferriss shows how the top new rich mavericks can actually engineer their lives to generate incomes of $5,000 per hour or even more. That's the insane power you get when you stop focusing on yearly salary and start focusing on relative income.
Okay, now I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds amazing, but it's terrifying, right? And that's exactly what we're going to tackle next, because the single biggest thing holding most people back is just plain old fear.
So instead of goal setting, Ferriss gives us something he calls fear setting. And it's this powerfully simple exercise. The idea is you don't just walk around feeling anxious. You actually sit down and write out in painful detail the absolute worst things that could possibly happen if you went for your dream. And this is the key question you have to ask yourself. When you actually define that nightmare scenario, really write it down, you often realize the permanent damage is what? Maybe a 3 or a 4 out of 10. You could get back on your feet. It's almost never the life-ending catastrophe your imagination cooked up.
This quote from the Stoic philosopher Seneca just captures the result of fear setting perfectly. Once you actually stare your fears in the face and define them, you strip them of all their power. You realize the reality is so much less terrifying than the vague anxiety you were carrying around.
All right, so we've shifted our mindset. We've stared down our fears. Now let's get to the good stuff, the practical, step-by-step plan for making this whole thing happen.
The core of the book's method is this 4-step framework called DEAL. It kicks off with definition, which we've basically covered. Turning those vague hopes into concrete goals. So now we're going to dig into the next 3 steps: elimination, automation, and liberation.
Okay, the E in DEAL stands for elimination. And this is all powered by the famous 80-20 principle. You probably heard of it.
It basically says that 80% of your results come from just 20% of your actions. So the goal here is to figure out what that critical 20% is and ruthlessly eliminate everything else. Stop doing the trivial many and just focus on the vital few.
This is such a powerful way to reframe things. We're all conditioned to believe that being busy means you're being productive, right? But Ferriss argues it's the total opposite. He calls it lazy thinking. Real productivity is about being incredibly, ruthlessly selective with your time and your energy.
Next up, let's talk about the A for automation. This is where you build what Ferriss calls a muse, which is basically a specialized automated business designed to generate cash without you being involved day to day. The key here is you're not creating another job for yourself. You're owning a system that pretty much runs on its own.
And to show you just how far you can take this whole automation thing, get a load of this incredible example from the book. This guy, A.J. Jacobs, he outsourced almost every single aspect of his life to a team of virtual assistants in India. We're talking answering emails, even arguing with his wife. It's hilarious and, yeah, it's extreme, but it just proves that almost any task can be delegated if you just build the right system.
So, let's recap. We've defined our goals, we've learned how to eliminate all the non-essential stuff, and we've seen the incredible power of automation. Really, the only thing left to do is to act.
This might just be the most inspiring idea in the entire book. Why is aiming for some massive, unrealistic goal actually easier? Think about it. 99% of people believe they can't achieve great things, so they don't even bother trying. That means there's way less competition for the big, crazy goals. And that huge potential payoff, it gives you the adrenaline you need to push through any obstacle.
So I want to leave you with this final, really powerful question from the book. It's a thought experiment, and it's designed to force absolute, total clarity. If you had a second heart attack, God forbid, and the doctor told you that you had to work only 2 hours per week, what would you do? What would you focus on? That question right there reveals what truly, truly matters.
And that really brings us to the end. The final message is all about urgent action. Tomorrow becomes never. The perfect time? It's never going to arrive. The excuses will always be there, ready and waiting. So the question is, what is the smallest possible step you can take right now, today, to start designing the life that you actually want?